Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today we have my Week 7 predictions for college football. So last week I had a record of 13-4, and that brings my overall record for the season to 90-26. So starting off with the games being played Friday night, we have Cal against number 9 in the country, Oregon. Oregon is without star running back C.J. Verdell, who's out for the rest of the season with a leg injury he suffered in Oregon's upset loss against Stanford. They do have Travis Dye, the speedy backup, who is going to step in and fill the starting role in Verdell's absence. Both teams are coming in fresh off a bye week. Cal hasn't beaten an FBS team this season, and I expect it to stay that way. Cal dropping to 1-5. Oregon with the 42-13 win. Number 24, San Diego State against San Jose State. San Diego State is undefeated. San Jose State is 3-3. I expect San Diego State to remain undefeated with a 27-17 victory. UCF at number 3, Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a really good team. I think they're a playoff contender. I think they're going to go undefeated. So a few weeks ago, before UCF lost quarterback Dylan Gabriel to a broken collarbone, I would say this game was going to be very close, but I think it's going to be 35-24 in favor of Cincinnati. Number 10, Michigan State at Indiana. So these two teams completely switched. So in the preseason, I didn't expect Michigan State to be very good, but they're undefeated. And I expected Indiana to be pretty good, but they're not that good. So, in the preseason, I also had Indiana winning, but based off what I just said, with Michigan State being undefeated, I think it's going to be Michigan State remaining undefeated to set up a showdown against Michigan, and as long as Michigan wins, they are going to be undefeated. The battle of the unbeatens. I could see an upset, but I think it's going to be Michigan State. 12, Oklahoma State at number 25's Texas. So last week in the Red River Showdown, Texas blew a huge lead against Oklahoma. Oklahoma. If Texas is going to score like they did against Oklahoma, which I think they will, I think they have a very good chance at winning. They have an explosive offense. They have Heisman contending running back Bijan Robinson. They have talented true freshman wide receiver Xavier Worthy. They have lots of good players on that offense. I expect Texas to beat Oklahoma State 42-38. Auburn at 17, Arkansas. So Arkansas lost to Ole Miss last week in an offensive shootout. Total of 50. They scored 51 points, but 103 were scored in the game, so they lost by 1 point. They lost 52-51. And I think they could have won that game if it went to overtime, so if I were Arkansas, I would have kicked the extra point, send it to overtime, because then I think I have the better chance of winning. But they decided to go for 2, and it was unsuccessful, giving Ole Miss the win. And Auburn was destroyed by Georgia last week. So now both teams have lost to Georgia. Well, obviously everyone who's played Georgia has lost because Georgia is undefeated. Arkansas is home. Both teams are 4-2, but I expect Auburn to pull off the 34-30 upset. Number 20, Florida against LSU. Florida has 2 losses against Kentucky, who's surprisingly good. They're still undefeated through the first 6 weeks, and they lost a 2-point game to Alabama. LSU hasn't been that great. They're 3-3, and their best win is against Mississippi State, and their losses are against Auburn, UCLA, and Kentucky. They haven't really beaten a good team, considering Mississippi State is their most impressive win. That's not impressive at all, because Mississippi State, they're not having a great year, but they were able to upset Texas A&M, so they're kind of decent this year. I think Florida wins in a dominating fashion, 42-20. Number 21, Texas A&M at Missouri. So Texas A&M upset Alabama last week on a last-second walk-off field goal. However, they were upset by Arkansas and Mississippi State earlier in the season. Missouri is 3-3 with wins against North Texas, Central Michigan, and Southeast Missouri State. They lost to Boston College, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So as you can see, every test they've had, they've lost. I think A&M beats Missouri 37-31. Purdue at number 2, Iowa. Iowa looks like a really good team. They just beat Penn State last week. Their defense has been really good this season. However, their offense has been much better than it started off in the recent weeks. I think Iowa will defeat Purdue 34-14. Number 19, BYU at Baylor. So BYU lost their first game of the season last week when they were upset by Boise State. And Baylor is 5-1 with their one loss coming against Oklahoma State. They have beaten Iowa State and West Virginia. So I could see Baylor with the upset, but I think BYU will rebound from their upset loss against Boise State with the 30-28 win. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be BYU coming out on top. But I could see it Baylor, but if I had, I think I feel more comfortable picking BYU than Baylor. Number 5, Alabama at Mississippi State. So Mississippi State upset Texas A&M, who upset Alabama. I think there's a small chance Mississippi State pulls off the upset, but I don't think it's likely because I don't think Alabama drops 2 games in a row to unranked teams, and I don't think Alabama would drop 2 games in a row, even if they were playing like Georgia and Florida. I think they'd find a way to win one of those games. So Alabama is going to bounce back with a 38-24 win over Mississippi State. TCU at number 4, Oklahoma. I think this game is going to be a shootout, just like the Red River Showdown last week with Oklahoma and Texas. So we don't know who the starting quarterback will be for Oklahoma. It could be true freshman Caleb Williams, who came in to spark a rally and lead Oklahoma back into the game against Texas. Or it could be Spencer Rattler, who was benched last game against Texas. I think it's going to be a shootout. Regardless of the starter for Oklahoma, I think they're going to defeat TCU 52-48. Number 13, Ole Miss at Tennessee. Ole Miss is 4-1 with their only loss to Alabama, and Tennessee is 4-2 with losses against Pittsburgh and Florida. We know Ole Miss can score. We saw that last week when they put up 52 points, and that was not even their season high. They beat Tulane 61-21, and they beat Austin Peay 54-17. So, 52 points is their third highest on the season, which is still a lot of points to put up, and it's their third highest amount of points. They have a very high-flying offense, and I think it's going to be Ole Miss beating Tennessee. 18, Arizona State at Utah. Utah's looked much better in the recent weeks after dropping 2 of their first 3 games. The last 2 weeks, they beat Washington State and USC. Arizona State is the better team. They're 4-1 with their only loss to another top 20 team, BYU. They also have an upset win over UCLA. I have Arizona State beating Utah in a close game, 34-28. And the last game, number 11, Kentucky against number 1, Georgia. Georgia is a very dominant team. They're the clear number 1. I don't think you can argue anyone but Georgia for number 1. Georgia is a great all-around team. They're playing on another level than everyone else. Alabama was playing on their level until they were upset by Texas A&M last week. Kentucky's still undefeated. They have wins against Florida in an upset at home, and they dominated against LSU. Georgia has a top 5 defense in the country. They're the only team allowing less than 10 points per game. They're allowing 5.5 points per game. Kentucky has a very good rushing attack, but Georgia is fourth against the run, and Georgia's defense is also fourth. They're the best team in the country against the pass. So this is going to be. So unless Kentucky can manage to get points up on the board, it's going to be Georgia. I have Georgia playing stifling defense, beating Kentucky 35-16. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. Please comment if you agree, disagree, why. If you disagree, tell me what game you disagree with, who you think will win that game, and why. And I will see you Sunday for my updated college football rankings and playoff predictions after Week 7.